They say that before you take revenge, you must dig 2 graves, one for your enemy and one for you. However, those rules don't apply to Gaelio Bodwin. Left abandoned and betrayed on the battlefield by his supposed friend, revenge was the only thing on his mind. With assistance from Rustal Elion, his battered family Gundam, the Kamaris, underwent a transformation. Losing the regal and bulky armor, Kamaris became Vidar, a sleek, fast mobile suit with many weapons and a big trump card hidden in its systems. Armed with dual pistols, a rifle, and a rapier-inspired sword with explosive tips, the Vidar is a venerable enemy and one impressive machine. Welcome back to the channel, my friends. I'm so happy to bring you this review of the Master Grade Gundam Vidar, the second Master Grade to come from the Iron Blooded Orphans line, and the first non-Verka Master Grade in 3 years. Let me know in the comments below what you want the next IBO Master Grade to be. Starting with the runners and parts, the Vidar is not a light kit by any means. Vidar is made from 18 runners, 10 different molded colors, and 361 parts used. The kit does include 7 runners from the previous Barbatos release, however these runners include 62 unused parts. Vidar primarily recycles the main torso, arms, waist, and thigh frame. The rest of the legs and all the armor parts are new. Because of this high part count, this was a longer build for me, coming in at around 20 hours total from panel lining, cleanup, nub removal, and assembly. The longest part of the build was parts cleanup, as there is a lot here packed into this build, and I wanted Vidar to look as good as possible out of the box. The only thing I did was paint the injection gold pieces in the upper thigh, as I'm not a huge fan of Bandai's injection gold. The rest is how the kit looks out of the box with panel lines. Assembling the kit went very smoothly, which is to be expected from a Bandai kit. Everything snapped together perfectly. Vidar's construction for the inner frame is very similar to Barbatos. There is some added complexity to these IBO frames with the movable pistons. I still found assembly easy enough, but a lot of these pieces are small, so I could see how some builders who don't like small parts may be a little frustrated assembling these. There's also a few sliding gimmicks, one in the back of the leg that requires a piece to be inserted vertically and spun into place, as well as the slide on the sword sheath to the side. Just pay close attention to the manual and you should be okay. The manual tells you to check the build periodically during assembly to make sure everything is built correctly, and I thought that was a nice touch that could help newer builders. The manual is laid out really well, with instructions for building the inner frame first before adding the armor. This allows you to skip around the manual, building the whole frame first, which I highly recommend for your build. Building Vidar this way gave me a lot of appreciation for the inner frame and all the mechanical detailing on it. I felt like I was building my very own mech by building this way. To bring out all the details on both the armor and the inner frame, I panel lined the entire kit. This is what helped contribute to my added build time, but I wanted to be really thorough with this kit. For panel lining, I used Tamiya accent color black and touched up any lines I erased during cleanup with a panel liner pen. The panel liner flowed easily through all the pieces here, both on the inner frame and the armor itself. The Vidar has a lot of surface detail and greebling, which I'm a big fan of. This kit does a great job using the 1/100 scale to further expand upon the design and add more detail that we don't get in the anime or in the high grade series. It will take you a decent amount of time to panel line everything, even with the Tamiya doing most of the work for you, so if you're not a fan of panel lining, maybe use your own discretion and panel line the outer armor instead. If you do take the time to panel line everything though, you end up with a fantastic looking kit to display, and you'll see all those little details that pop up on the inner frame as it's exposed as you articulate the kit around. The seam lines on Vidar are minimal, but they are there. Like most weaponry, we do have a seam line down the middle of both the rifle and the handguns. We also have a seam line down the middle of the sheath boosters and around the circumference of the backpack boosters. The remaining seam lines are smaller, and we can find them on the cheeks of the face, on the front of the knee just below the blue armor, and on the shoulder. These shoulder and face ones might be able to be masked as panel lines. These are to be expected. We're always going to have seam lines on model kits. And a lot of these seam lines are on darker colors, so that may make seam line removal a little more challenging than on white armored kits. A lot of these seam lines are smaller and would be fine for an out-of-the-box build, but if you're planning on a competition piece, you'll want to work to seal these up. Color accuracy out of the box is splendid. Looking at the line art, there was really no steps missed here with the Vidar. Even the eyes are color separated, which is wonderful. If you're someone who likes LEDs, this would be a great candidate for those. We do have stickers for the end of the sword in their explosive state, but a dab of paint would be super easy to apply to these areas. There is also a sticker for the third Ahab reactor on the backpack, as well as for the eyes, though it doesn't really need it. The kit does come with its own set of caution and detail stickers, very similar to RG types of Gunpla. I'm a big fan of decals for that extra sense of realism, so I opted to wait for the waterslide decals for this release. I'm sure my love of this design will only be elevated once it's fully decaled and top coated. The nub marks on Vidar are fairly standard, but a little more difficult to deal with than other kits, simply due to its darker color scheme. I used a 3-cut method on this kit and filed down the nubs with my fingernail, but they are still pretty noticeable on the darker colors, specifically on the sheath boosters. There is some undergating here, but it's only on a handful of parts like the cheek pieces and the V-fin. There's a lot of parts that make up this build, so you'll be cleaning nubs for a third of your time with this kit. All around, the Vidar was a very fun kit to detail, clean up, and assemble. With the build process covered, let's talk about articulation. The head is on a swivel in the torso, a ball joint in the neck, with another swivel in the head. This gives us a really nice look upwards and downwards. The head can rotate around 360 degrees and can tilt left to right about 40 degrees. The torso is one of the more complex areas of the build simply because of all the moving pistons. It is also fully possible to over-articulate this kit to pop the pistons out of place, so definitely be careful as you articulate the Vidar. There is a swivel in the torso allowing us to lean backwards 25 degrees, any more than that and we're liable to pop the pistons out. We can lean the Vidar forward about 30 degrees. The torso does have a side-to-side tilt about 15 degrees in either direction. This is about average for torso articulation. The waist does rotate, but the pistons like to scrape on the skirt, so we have about 180 degree rotation on the front of the waist, as the rear skirt stops this rotation entirely. The front skirt armor can go 180 degrees upwards. The rear skirt can swing out about 40 degrees backwards. The side skirts can swing upwards 90 degrees flat. They can also swivel at the booster and at the waist, giving us a nice swinging motion. The flaps on the booster can spread out a little bit, and the whole booster itself can slide downwards, allowing Vidar to load a new blade into the sword. This sliding gimmick is really tight though, so it's probably best to remove the booster itself when trying to slide this out. The legs have a small swivel built into the waist, allowing for some slight up and down movement. With the skirts out of the way, Vidar can kick forward 90 degrees, backwards 90 degrees, and even split out 90 degrees. The swivel in the thigh can rotate inward and outward a bit, but is restricted from the thigh armor. There is a double bend in the knee, and it does a really good job compressing the leg despite that large thruster being right on the back of the calf. This is a lot better than the old full mechanics kit. Both thrusters are on swivels, allowing a little bit of up and down motion. The foot is on a swivel in the shin for 40 degrees of front and 30 degrees of back movement. There is a swivel for left and right rotation. Finally, there is a swivel in the foot for left to right tilt, 60 degrees in either direction. The feet also include the built-in blades that can swing outward to provide some weaponry in the foot itself. This limits toe articulation in stowed mode, but with the knife deployed there is a little bit of toe articulation. The arms are in a swivel at the torso, allowing the arms to swing forward and backwards. The arms can rotate 360 degrees at the armpit for some windmill punches. There is also slight up and down movement within the armpit as well, so Vidar can raise its arm and pull off a T-pose. The shoulder armor is on a swivel for up and down movement. The bicep is on a swivel, allowing 360 degree rotation of the arm. We have a double bend in the elbow, giving us an okay bicep curl. The hand itself is on 3 swivels, one at the wrist allowing 360 degree rotation. We also have a left to right swivel at the wrist, allowing the hand to articulate inwards and outwards. Finally, we have a swivel in the palm, allowing a downwards rotation of the hand, perfect for Vidar's rapier sword. The backpack has 2 ball joints, one in the Ahab reactor and one in the wings. This allows us a lot of swivels and rotations for dynamic posing. We can go up and down, left and right, as well as inwards and outwards. The backpack is very close to the arms, so it's good that these 2 ball joints give us a lot of room to maneuver these binders. Vidar uses the new style of Master Grade hands with swappable fingers. The fingers included with Vidar are 2 closed fist fingers, 2 open fingers, 2 closed sword fingers, and 2 shooting hand fingers, all easily swappable and capable of holding their respective weapons. We get the rifle, which has a magazine that can be removed, and the rifle itself can be stowed onto the sheath booster. We get 2 handguns very similar in look to a 1911. These have a movable slide gimmick, which is unexpected and really awesome. These handguns can also be stowed in the front skirt, but it does limit articulation for the skirt. Finally, we get Vidar's sword, which is a rapier in appearance and design. This includes 6 blades in the sheath booster, as well as 2 blades for the deployed exploded state. Gundam Vidar has a powerful presence, being able to pull off strong, menacing, and demanding poses. The articulation of Master Grade allows Vidar to pull off nearly any pose you can think of. You do have to be careful around some of the piston areas, as they're liable to pop off or pull out if you over-articulate the joint. Despite all of this, you're still ending up with a more articulate and detailed version of Vidar in 1/100 scale over the old full mechanics version. This kit does fantastic poses on the ground as well as on a stand. It's stable, sturdy, and balances well. The only thing that really limits your poses with the Master Grade Vidar is your imagination. The Master Grade Vidar is everything I've ever wanted out of a Master Grade kit. It has amazing mechanical detailing on the frame, as well as expressive surface detailing on the outward armor. It has features that make sense, like the movable pistons, as well as a removable magazine for the rifle. While it can be slightly frustrating having the pistons pop out, it's a small price to pay for realistic detailing that really adds a lot of value to the kit. The only minor gripes I have with this kit are the C-clips for the rear thruster like to just give up when posing the legs, so a little bit of joint guard on the rear leg connection would help these thrusters a lot. The seam lines and nub marks do leave a little bit to be desired. The nubs would be much more manageable for out-of-the-box builders if the sheath boosters had been undergated. But if these are the only areas that require real sanding in addition to the two-cut method to be mitigated, I think the kit's doing pretty good for itself. Especially when we consider how dark this color scheme is, the nubs and seams could have been a lot worse. This kit is going to be around $65 US when it releases, and I absolutely got a lot of bang for my buck here. This kit kept me busy for a long time, and I was able to fully immerse myself into the build process. The completed kit looks outstanding and is filled with features and details that I'm very impressed with. The assembly was a blast, and this kit is incredibly stable with no polycaps or C-clips in areas that will prove to be problematic down the line. They say that good things come to those that wait, and I certainly think the wait for MG Vidar was worth it. I'm very excited to see what Bandai cooks up next for the Master Grade line. If the Vidar is any indication, it'll be nothing less than incredible. If you like the design, make sure you get the Vidar when it releases. It's an exquisite experience and a vast improvement over the full mechanics, well worth the upgrade. Thank you all so much for watching this review of the Master Grade Vidar. This video would not have been possible without my subscribers. Your likes, comments, and subscriptions mean the world to me, and that's the only way I get kits like this in early. I hope you enjoyed this review and that I kept you entertained for a while. I hope to see you in the next video where we'll be going a little psycho. Until next time, stay safe, have fun, and happy building.